Hi, my name is Courtney Minot. I'm a student at Broward College. I'll be reading from William Golding's Lord of the Flies. The book was banned in 1992 because it lured passages about sex and it was defamatory to minorities, women, and God. The ululation spread from shore to shore. The savage knelt down by the edge of the thicket, and there were lights flickering in the forest behind him. You could see a knee disturb the mold, now the other, 2 hands, a spear, a face. The savage peered into the obscurity beneath the thicket. You could tell that he saw light on this side and on that, but not in the middle. There, in the middle, was a blob of dark, and the savage wrinkled up his face, trying to decipher the darkness. The seconds lengthened. Ralph was looking straight into the savage's eyes. "Don't scream, you'll get back." "Now he's seen you. He's making sure." A sick sharpened. Ralph screamed, a scream of fright and anger and desperation. The screams became continuous and foaming. He shot forward, burst the thicket, was in the open, screaming, snarling, bloody. He swung the stake and the savage tumbled over, but there were others coming towards him, crying out. He swerved as the spear flew past and then was silent, running. All at once the lights flickering ahead of him merged together. The roar of the forest rose to thunder, and a tall bush directly in his path burst into great fan-shaped flame. He swung to the right, running desperately fast, with the heat beating on his left side and the fire racing toward like a tide. The ululation rose behind him and spread along a series of short, sharp cries, the sighting call. A brown figure showed up at his right and fell away. They were all running, all crying out madly. He could hear them crashing in the undergrowth, and on the left was the hot, bright thunder of the fire. He forgot his wounds, his hunger and thirst, and became fear, hopeless fear of flying feet, rushing through the forest toward the open beach. Spots jumped before his eyes and turned into red circles that expanded quickly till they passed out of sight. Below him, someone's legs were getting tired and desperate. Ululation advanced like a jagged fringe of menace and was almost overheard. He stumbled over a root, and the cry that pursued him rose even higher. He saw a shelter burst into flames, and the fire flapped at his right shoulder, and there was the glitter of water. Then he was down, rolling over and over in the warm sand, crouching with arm up to ward off, trying to cry for mercy. He staggered to his feet, tense for more terrors, and looked up at a huge peak cap. It was a white top cap, and above the green shade of the peak was a crown and anchor. Gold foliage. He saw white drill epaulettes, a revolver, a row of buttons down the front of a uniform. A naval officer stood on the sand, looking down at Ralph in weary astonishment. On the beach behind him was a cutter.
Hi, my name is Diego Clement, and I'm a student at Broward College, North Campus, and today I'll be reading a passage from The Color Purple, written by Alice Walker in 1983. And the book was banned in 1984 because of sexual explicit content, crude languages, and racial slur. And the book became so popular that in 1985, Steven Spielberg decided to make it a motion picture starring Oprah Winfrey as Sally and Whoopi Goldberg as Silly, the main character. And today I'll be reading part 3 from page 117. It's a dialogue from Shug and Silly, the main character. Shug becomes close with Mr. again, hurting and frustrating both Silly and Grady, who pass the time together. Shug informs Silly that Albert has been hiding pictures. Shug becomes close with Mr. again, hurting and frustrating both Silly and Grady, who pass the time together. Shug informs Silly that Albert has been hiding Nettie's letters all these years. She can hardly believe that Albert is such a horrible man to Silly and his children. Silly becomes so angry with Mr. that she wishes him ill. After Silly finds her husband, Jesus, Shug takes care of Silly, puts her to bed, and tells everyone she had a fever. Then she talks about her past and her family and her relationship with Albert. Her real name is Lily, and she recalls her courtship and beginnings with Albert. Even though she gave birth to 3 children with him, his father would never approve of a marriage between them. He believed she was trash, just as her mother. Chuck knew Mr.'s first wife, Annie Julia, and feels terrible for the evil way she treated her. She feels even worse for the way she treated Celie as a servant and when she first moved in. However, she thinks about the glorious sexual relations that she had with Albert now differently.
Hi, my name is Tatiana. I'm a student at Broward College, and I'm gonna be reading Breaking Down, one of the books of the Twilight Saga, as part of the Banned Books Week. These books have been banned in a junior high school near the Mormon stronghold of the Salt Lake City of Utah. These books have been banned because some parents complain about their sexual content, and they also think that the books promote teenage marriage. These books have been so popular that they even have 4 movies about them. I'm gonna start reading in chapter 5, paragraph 4. I couldn't hear the sound of my footsteps as I walked to the water's edge, but I guessed that he could. Edward did not turn. I let the gentle swells break over my toes and found that he'd been right about the temperature. It was very warm, like bath water. I stepped in, walking carefully across the invisible ocean floor. But my care was unnecessary. The sand continued perfectly smooth, sloping gently toward Edward. I waded through the waveless current till I was at his side, and then I placed my hand lightly over his cool hand lying on the water. Beautiful, I said, looking up at the moon too. It's all right, he answered, unimpressed. He turned slowly to face me. Little waves rolled away from his movement and broke against my skin. His eyes looked silver in his ice-colored face. He twisted his hand up so that he could twine our fingers beneath the surface of the water. It was warm enough that his cool skin did not raise goose bumps on mine. But I wouldn't use the word beautiful, he continued. Not with you standing here in comparison. I have smiled, then raised my free hand, it didn't tremble now, and placed it over his heart. White on white, we matched for once. He shuddered the tiniest bit at my warm touch. His breath came rougher now. I promised we would try, he whispered, suddenly tense. If I do something wrong, if I hurt you, you must tell me at once. I nodded solemnly, keeping my eyes on his. I took another step through the waves and leaned my head against his chest. Don't be afraid, I murmured. We belong together. I was abruptly overwhelmed by the truth of my own words. This moment was so perfect, so right, there was no way to doubt it. Hi, my name is Carolina and I'm a student at Broward College in South Florida. I am gonna be reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix as part of Banned Books Week. Even though Harry Potter books have been very popular and there are 8 movies about them, in some parts of United States and United Kingdom, these books have been banned because some people think that they promote witchcraft, they set a bad example, and they are too dark for children to handle. I am gonna read the beginning of chapter 3, The Advance Guard. I've just been attacked by Dementors and I might be expelled from Hogwarts. I want to know what's going on and when I'm going to get out of here. Harry copied these words onto 3 separate pieces of parchment the moment he reached the desk in his dark bedroom. He addressed the first to Sirius, the second to Ron, and the third to Hermione. His soul, Hedwig, was off hunting. Her cage stood empty on the desk. Harry paced the bedroom waiting for her to come back, his head pounding, his brain too busy for sleep even though his eyes shone and itched with tiredness. His back ached from carrying Dudley home, and the 2 lumps on his head where the window and Dudley had hit him were throbbing painfully. Up and down he paced, consumed with anger and frustration, grinding his teeth and clenching his fists, casting angry looks out the empty, star-strewn sky every time he passed the window. The mentor sent to get him, Mrs. Fish and Mundungus Fletcher tailing him in secret, then suspicion from Hogwarts and a hearing from at the Ministry of Magic, and still no one was telling him what was going on. And what, What had that howler been about, whose voice had echoed so horrible, so menacingly through the kitchen? Why was he still trapped here without information? Why was everyone treating him like some naughty kid? Don't do any more magic, stay in the house. He kicked his school trunk as he passed, but far from relieving his anger, he felt worse, as he now had a sharp pain in his toe to deal with in addition to the pain in the rest of his body. Thank you.